Good morning. Welcome to another episode of Veteran Services with Gerry Maguire. As you know, I am Gerry Maguire, the original, and I have some great guests for us today. I have State Representative Diantha. I have from Boston DVS, the Director of Housing, Claire, help me with your last name. McCrinnick.
Coles.
What she said. And we have Kathy Hogue, who is the Director of North Andover Housing. Now, this episode is a continuation of the last month's episode where we had representatives from VASH, the Veterans Administrative Subsidized Housing Program. Housing is a huge issue for veterans. Fortunately, North Andover has no homeless veterans. Now, in the past 30 days, I did have 2 veterans walk into my office and say that they were homeless. One moved up from Rhode Island. The other had a domestic dispute with the wife, and he needed another place to stay. Within 24 hours, we were able to house both veterans. That's not always the case, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I'm going to ask Kathy first. Kathy Hogue is the Director of North Andover Housing. And a couple of months ago, Kathy, we had a meeting, and we talked about the wordage of Mass General Law, Chapter 115, where it says a housing authority may count the income, the compensation that a veteran receives, even if it's a benefit. And can you tell us what the results of that meeting were?
Well, it was great to get together with you, Gerry. For many housing authorities, the regulatory language can be somewhat gray. So there isn't necessarily a lot of clarity, for folks in that. And we reached out to you to kind of have a discussion about that particular language. And I think the result of the discussion was great because we did ultimately decide that we wanted to choose not to count that. We do have an option as a housing authority whether or not to count that income, but we definitely decided not to do that. We feel that the veterans deserve all the benefits that they can possibly get, and to have the option to not count that, I think makes a lot of sense for us to make the decision to go that direction. So I appreciate that support and that opportunity to meet with you and get that clarity, because the regulations aren't always crystal clear for us. There's a lot of gray area sometimes. So
just to make it clear, if you are a veteran and you are in the North Andover Housing Authority, your benefits are no longer counted as income. If you are receiving Chapter 115 or if you're receiving VA comp, you need to go and let the Director of the Housing Authority know that you are a veteran. And you have veterans in the Housing Authority that we found out were quiet about being a veteran. Please don't be quiet about being a veteran. Be proud. And go talk to Kathy, let her know, and this is going to help you. This is what we're about. We're about helping the veteran. Now, another thing, shortly after that meeting with you, one of your residents came to me and said, well, we have a problem with air conditioning, that air conditioning units are being charged $50 per unit to be installed and $50 per unit to be removed. I went to Boston DVS and talked about that, and the solution that we came up with is because of the age of many of your residents, if they get a letter from a doctor that says that due to the terrible temperatures that we sometimes find here in New England, that we can reimburse for the installation of those air conditioners. We can do it under a medical, just like it was a prescription. So again, the services here, North Andover is a great place to be, and it's even a greater place if you're a veteran, because we go the extra mile. We always have, we always will.
Well, I appreciate your advocacy, Gerry. It means a lot to me and to the Housing Authority. We are a public housing authority, and one of our primary focuses is to manage property, obviously, but we also see ourselves as social service agents, and I personally feel very strongly about ensuring that folks get connected to services that are going to be helpful for them. So you know, for me, and you know, someone with my background, that's really important to me and to the Housing Authority and to the board. So, you know, I appreciate you and your service connection and your willingness to work with us. That's really important.
Thank you.
To us. So thank you.
You know, I wanted to start with Kathy at the town level and move forward to the state level, and then, of course, to discuss some of the legislative issues concerning veterans. So I'm going to ask Claire, she's from DVS, Department of Veteran Services, and she's the director of the housing. Now, what do? You don't just sit in Boston, obviously, because you're here in North Andover. Tell me about your outreach.
No, I don't just sit in Boston, and we have a resource-rich state, and a lot of funding comes through the legislature, through the budget, for us to do our due diligence and to protect veterans, that whether they're homeless or they're in state-aided public housing, families that need assistance and that deserve assistance, Gerry. If you've raised your hand to protect our country, it's our obligation to protect the veterans and their families here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. The Department of Veteran Services, with the Housing and Outreach component, oversees roughly around 36 homeless and outreach providers located all across the Commonwealth. So if there is a veteran in Williamstown that needs assistance, somebody down in Hyannis, and anywhere in between, we've got our staff regionally positioned in these areas to help assist homeless veterans and their families. We've got a team called the SAVE Team, which is statewide advocacy for veterans empowerment. You can contact them through the Department of Veteran Services. I can give the number, which is 617-210-5763. So if you're a veteran and you're finding that you need assistance through the court system, whether you need some assistance through mental health issues, a family certainly could call, and we'll directly set up boots on the ground veteran combat vet to assist the veteran needing the assistance. Our homeless shelters and various types of homeless services for vets, whether it's emergency shelter, transitional, or permanent housing, is available. We work with the VA. We work with them offsetting and complementing services. So a veteran might, for instance, be utilizing some temporary housing in the VA while receiving treatment, and once they feel secure, they can take the next step. And that could be returning to the community through transitional housing, which would be supportive services through one of our networks that receive Department of Veteran Services funding. And for instance, we would recommend that they see the veteran service officer. In your case, if somebody's returning to North Andover, we recommend that they come and see you with assistance with housing, medical, anything that they might need to assist them and to reintegrate back into the community.
Now, you've heard me say before that the biggest problem a veteran has is a veteran doesn't know what he doesn't know. And there are so many opportunities for a veteran returning. There's education, there's housing, there's financial assistance. And I'm just myself learning about this SAVE Team. By next episode, I will be an expert on what the SAVE Team does. Mm-hmm. Now, you had mentioned legal issues. I'm going to assume, unless you say I'm wrong, that the SAVE Team works with the Veterans Court.
They do.
And the Veteran Court is a fairly new idea. Mm-hmm. It actually started in another state. I did some research on that. And it is growing rapidly in Massachusetts. Mm-hmm. And it's an excellent thing. It's not that a veteran can do something wrong and get away with it. It's a veteran can make a mistake. I find a lot of times when a veteran gets in trouble, he thinks he's a bad guy. And he's not a bad guy. He's a good guy who needs a little bit of help. That's what we're here for. Now, do you work with the Veterans Court specifically, or do you have advocates that work for you that work for the court?
We have a team, the SAVE Team.
So the SAVE Team works for you?
The SAVE team works for the Department of Veteran Services,
Okay.
and we've got a component of the SAVE team that concentrates on the trial court. So for instance, if there is a veteran that you know of that needs some assistance, our team member will go into the court and work with the veteran and the judge in the trial court. Instead of becoming adjudicated through the system, they, for instance, maybe might need some assistance with the detox, and maybe their crime occurred because of some type of illegal drug use. The veteran then will work with our team member and the judge, and it could be 30 days, 60 days in a detox, come back in front of the judge, and once they've completed that service in going through the detox, then that might be dismissed. And it seems to be working. We've been very successful with that. And again, you can contact the SAVE team at 617-210-5763 for more information about that.
That'd be great.
Great.
Now, over the past 20 years that I've worked with veterans, I've gone to court with veterans several times. So this newly initiated Veterans Court is a godsend to veterans. One of the things, if a veteran, for the sake of this conversation, I'm driving home on Friday night and I've had one too many and I hit a tree with my car, wrecked my car.
Right.
Police show up and they find that I've been drinking. And I'm not advising this, don't do this. This is an example. What would happen to me from that point?
Well, our team has gone out and we've educated the police systems, and also we've actually done some education in the police academies. So the word is out that we're here, and we have, we've got pocket cards that if that happens, they will, of course, call the SAVE team, and the SAVE team will come and we'll figure out something, an alternative for the vet.
Now, I don't want to put you on the spot, I promised I wouldn't, but if I get you an appointment with our chief of police, would you be willing to talk to our police?
Of course, certainly, absolutely. And
I think that's fantastic.
yeah, we're
You know,
really
and I'm
rolling that
learning
out
stuff
now.
here today myself. The SAVE team, I've got to do some research. Although I've heard them before, I didn't know what they did. Now I'm doing that learning thing. Stay with me.
And they do many other things. They do Battle Mind for first responders, things like that. And they talk about their experiences when they've returned home, and maybe because they've had some unfortunate combat experience, they might blow through a red light, or they might be drinking and driving. As a result, they are pulled over, or what have you, and this is what the team is there specifically for. This is one of the components that we offer to veterans here in the Commonwealth.
Now, one of the things that Claire just mentioned was blowing through a red light or a stop sign. I've come across many veterans that are coming home from what we call the sandbox over in Afghanistan, the mountainous area, and Iraq, the desert area. And I have been told that when somebody tailgates them, they panic. Their PTSD is triggered, their post-traumatic stress, because many convoys were injured or loss of life occurred because a suicide bomber tailgated and pulled the trigger. It's a trigger. If you're watching and you're driving, not together, don't tailgate, okay? Don't tailgate anybody. It's bad stuff. Now we're going to move on to State Representative Diantha, who she and I have been talking a couple of years now about that wordage. There's another state rep who kind of jumped ahead of us and has put that in the State House so that the wordage is actually going to be changed. I think it's going to be changed this year too. So Diantha, tell me some of the things that you've done for our veterans. And I could tell you many things she's done. She's one of my favorite people.
Well, thank you, Gerry. It's first of all an honor and a privilege to be here, and thank you to everybody who's watching today. I love having an opportunity to speak to residents of the North Andover community about what's going on in North Andover, but not only in North Andover, but in the entire Merrimack Valley and across the Commonwealth. Working together with these wonderful women here and also working together with you, we in the Commonwealth have been able to come up with several pieces of legislation that we were able to see passed this year that will provide additional services to our, not only to our veterans, but to our active duty military men and women across the Commonwealth. Now, as you know, Gerry, and as you two ladies probably know, Massachusetts is number one in the country for veteran services and veterans benefits.
It's true.
And we can attribute that to the work, to the working together and to the partnerships that happen between our local VSOs, through our local housing authorities, and through all of our veterans who take the time, and their families, who take the time to speak out, to let their voices be heard, and to let us know as your state senators, as your state representatives, as the legislative body that represents you, what the needs are in the community. So I'm very thankful once again for the opportunity to be here. And just to get into a couple of different things, and you already touched upon it, and Kathy, you touched upon it as well. There has been an issue across the Commonwealth where veterans' benefits were actually counting against the veterans who were applying to local housing authorities for admittance into those housing authorities. They were applying to housing, but they were disabled and collecting some benefits, and those benefits were actually counting towards or counting against them regarding their annual gross income. You have to have a certain income level in order to get accepted into some of these housing authorities, and these benefits were actually counting against them and making it nearly impossible for them to get into these housing authorities.
Causing a lot of frustration.
Causing a lot of frustration, and now, Gerry, as you know, being a veteran yourself, you know, this is one extra thing to deal with that can add to the stress in the life of a veteran.
Right.
That may already be very stressful.
At jeopardy.
At jeopardy. So, you know, not only should we be taking care of our veterans, that's sort of an obvious thing, but think about this. Think about coming home, being disabled because you put your life on the line to serve our country and to protect the people in this community, and then coming home, not being able to work, being essentially unemployable, and being told from your local community that we're sorry, we're unable to provide you with the basics like housing, like shelter. So this has been a big concern. You brought it up to me, you know, recently in the past couple of years, and in working obviously in coordination with Kathy, who's been doing a great job at the North Andover Housing Authority that I've been hearing from all of our residents who live there. You've been able to see this actually established in North Andover. Because the law has said in the past that, you know, it may be used against you. So North Andover has actually shown some leadership on this issue.
Absolutely.
North Andover should be very proud of themselves for taking the lead on this issue statewide by not counting these benefits against our servicemen and women returning home from war and just looking for shelter. Now, in the legislature, we actually have been working on this issue as well, and we did pass a provision recently that we actually just voted upon this past week that provides for this exemption for our disabled veterans and those coming back who are unemployable to not have those benefits count against them. So the veterans that come back and apply to housing authorities actually will be given preference, and those things will not be counted against them when they apply.
And that's great.
And we're just
You know,
looking for the signature from the governor on that one.
Well,
Which
Governor
I'm sure
Baker
won't be a problem.
has always backed veterans. I believe in Governor Baker. Fortunately, you know, North Andover has a town manager who has always backed veterans. You know, Andy Mailer. Anything I've asked has come to bear very positive fruit, very sweet fruit. And I think that, you know, the town government backing and having the desire for our veterans to succeed is huge. A lot of times I'll meet a young veteran who is very confused. When they come back, they're not just coming home, they're kind of deployed home, and they don't realize that they're going to fight another battle when they get back here. When they try to get housing and they can't. When they go to school. Now, I had a young veteran from North Andover who was under the impression that by virtue of being a veteran, he could go to college. Now, this young man, and it's a great story. He was deployed 4 times. He was actually bounced back and forth. He was deployed to Iraq, then Afghanistan, back to Iraq, and back in Afghanistan. He came into my office and he said, you know, I want to go to school. I want to go to UMass Lowell. Okay, great. And I called Jeannie Virts, who's the VSO at the college. When I worked for Vash in Bedford, I met Jean. So we've got a long-time relationship. I said, I'm going to send this veteran up to you and we'll get him in a school. So I sent him up by himself. And he was under the impression that all he had to do was show up. He didn't have to fill out any paperwork. Now, he's very frustrated when he has to do paperwork. So there was a little disagreement with Gene, and he came back. He was very angry, and I said, you know, I can't use his name, but I said, you know, calm down. I'll go with you. So I made an appointment to go up to UMass Lowell, and I filled out the paperwork for him. Through iPods for Wounded Veterans, and if you are a veteran and you're service-connected, please call me. iPod for Wounded Veterans wants to talk to you. But iPods for Wounded Veterans gave this veteran a laptop computer, a laptop bag, an MP3 video player. Now, I'm not sure what that is, but the veteran was very excited to get this. A couple of different headphones and a tablet, just a bunch of stuff for this kid to go to school with. And today he's doing very well. He lives in the dorm up there. He's doing a great job. But it's because eventually, not in the first meeting, but the second meeting, Jeannie Virts understood the level of frustration that this kid had. Now, and I don't mean to say kid, but this is New England. And, you know, you can be 75 years old and say, you know, he's a good kid. But there are 22 veterans a day committing suicide. So that frustration will grow and turn to hopelessness. And once that veteran hits hopelessness, we're in trouble.
Right.
You know, we're in trouble because we failed.
Right.
You know, I believe that with all my heart, that if these 22 a day have been allowed to hit that hopeless stage, then we as the VA, we as veteran service officers, we as state representatives have let him fall through the cracks.
Right, right.
You know, and
So
to hear all the things that, and I know all the things you do. You know, I can't tell you how many times I've picked up the phone and called State Rep DeZoglio and said, I have a problem with this veteran. And every time I get a response that's positive and the veteran gets help. So I challenge you, if you have a problem, call me. She's got big shoulders, believe it or not. She carries a hell of a load.
Well, Gerry, just first of all, thank you, but I just wanted to build upon what you were saying and just talk about it from a little bit of a legislator perspective. You mentioned the suicide rate amongst our veterans.
Right.
You said 22 a day, right? So it's actually, that's totally correct. For anybody out there that's watching, the rate of suicide amongst our veterans is actually higher than the rate of those killed in the line of duty right now. That means that if you're sent off to war, you're actually at this time more likely to come back and to commit suicide nationwide than you are to be killed in the line of duty in battle. That's completely unacceptable. We need to do a better job of assisting our not only active duty military men and women, but our veterans who are returning home. Now, what's happening, as you know more than anybody, when these men and women are sent abroad, they're experiencing things that we can't even imagine. Then when they come home from that volatile environment, they're sometimes coming home to a different type of volatile environment where they are looking for assistance with possible mental health issues, financial struggles, educational struggles, housing struggles, substance abuse struggles, and we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to help to assist these returning veterans. Now, the legislature does everything that they can do based on what they're hearing from our local residents. However, I believe that we can do more. That's why this past session I filed a piece of legislation, I filed a bill that actually would create a post-deployment commission to examine ways that we can improve upon helping our returning servicemen and women when they come back, whether that be partnering them with another veteran, veterans helping veterans, for example, whether that be connecting them with a social worker or mental health provider of some kind, whatever it is, looking at ways and examining ways that we can assist our returning veterans so that we stop talking about it and actually start putting these ideas into action and getting these vets the help that they deserve. So I was very pleased because this past legislative session, we've been working on it. We had the Gold Star mothers and wives come out to the State House to endorse this legislation, and that was through talking to Gerry Maguire. We were actually able to get that support. They came out to the State House. They supported this legislation in the committee hearing, and the chair of the committee and the committee members were very receptive. And they passed this bill out favorably, and we just voted on it this past week, and that is going to be enacted this upcoming year.
Excellent.
So we're very excited about that. It's not a complete solution, but it's one more step in the right direction towards making the lives of our returning servicemen and women just a little bit better and a little bit easier.
And last month, I had the honor of hosting the Gold Star Mothers Massachusetts Rhode Island Convention at the Senior Center here in North Andover, and one of our guests was State Representative Diantha.
And that was a great luncheon.
It was. It really was.
Best sandwiches
and a lot
ever.
of good stuff came out of that, you know.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I had a widow who came into my office last January, a North Andover resident. Her husband passed away in December. He passed away from a disease that he contracted in Vietnam. So his death was service-connected due to Agent Orange. She had no idea of the benefits that were available to her, nor did she know or realize that because he passed of a service-connected disease, she became a Gold Star widow. And she happened to pop into the community center, the senior center that day, and she was greeted with open arms. It's
a wonderful group
she had
of
called
women.
me after that to let me know. And by the way, I was able to file paperwork for her because of the service connection to the death. When I talked to her about, and I talked to all my veterans, if they own a home, do you have a VA home loan? And she did not. So we got her a VA home loan, and all told, she saved a lot of money. I think she estimated $800 per month off of her mortgage. And with her, receiving her DIC benefits, the lady financially has nothing to worry about. She still grieves her husband, and that's understandable. And if you're watching, again, I'm not going to say her name, come in the office, have a cup of coffee with me. It's great to see you all the time. So, what other legislation have we got here?
Well, I can talk about pretty much anything. I'll start talking about a couple of other things that we've been working on. We actually, out of Methuen, Gerry, another community that I represent in the state legislature, I represent Lawrence, Methuen, Haverhill, and North Andover, and it's an honor and a privilege to represent you in the state legislature. A woman from Methuen who lives very close to me on the east end of Methuen, actually, Miss Amato.
I know her.
Miss
I
Amato
know her
and
very
Mrs.
well.
Amato as well. They contacted me about an issue that a woman named Alfina was having with her excise tax.
And she was active duty, stationed outside of Massachusetts.
She was active duty. So
Yep.
what was happening is Alfina was actually stationed abroad in Afghanistan. While she was abroad, while she was performing her duties, while she was protecting this country, while she was protecting the North Andover community, the Methuen community, and all of us that are sitting here today, and while she was serving us and putting her life on the line, she was not driving her vehicle back here stateside. Nobody was driving her vehicle, but yet her vehicle was still accruing an excise tax. The bills
And
were
a
being
penalty.
sent to the house. So the bills were being sent to the house, and her mother contacted me and said, "What is this? My daughter's serving abroad right now, and we're getting these taxes on a vehicle that she's not even driving. Isn't there some sort of exemption?" So, my office looked into it. There is no such exemption, not when you're active duty. So what the issue ended up causing was first and foremost in Methuen, thanks to our local city councilor, Tom Shula. Tom worked together with Diantha Mato to get a local option adopted in the Methuen community, where Methuen agreed to waive the excise tax fee for all active duty servicemen and women during their time stationed abroad, which I think was fabulous of the Methuen community to do and to show leadership on. After that, I went to Lowell, spoke with their city councilor upon invitation, city council upon invitation, and one of their city councilors there had shown some leadership on this issue and asked me to come there to talk about this issue. They passed it as a local option.
Now, you wrote a bill that will make it statewide, is that correct?
And subsequently, we were working the entire time on drafting a bill that would take what was happening in the Methuen community and in the Lowell community and make that statewide. Yes, Gerry, and we actually ended up just getting that passed in the veterans legislation that I've been talking about this whole time. That was another one of my bills that was adopted in the comprehensive veterans legislation that we just passed. So what was happening is not only the excise tax was being charged to our active duty servicemen and women while they were stationed abroad, but if you can imagine, if you're stationed abroad and you're getting a bill sent to your home, a tax bill, sometimes nobody's getting that bill, or that bill gets put into the wrong hands, and that bill doesn't get paid on time. Why? Not because you're not being responsible or because you are ignoring it, simply because you're busy protecting our country, serving abroad. So that bill might not get paid immediately. Now, what was happening, Gerry, is that not only was this excise tax bill being accrued as something that these active duty servicemen and women had to return home to pay off, but also subsequent late fees and relative
and it would have an
charges.
effect on their ability to get a license,
Right.
renew their license.
Right, so the way that the law was written is that the Registrar of Motor Vehicles actually can turn away people who owe late fees and late charges and haven't paid their excise tax, and actually make it so that you can't get your license, you can't renew your license, and you can't renew the registration on your motor vehicle. So, I mean, imagine serving abroad and coming home after all that, coming back from Afghanistan and coming home and being told you owe hundreds of dollars in excise taxes and late fees and late charges. You may not renew your license, and you may not renew your registration on your vehicle, so you can't drive to work, to school, whatever it is that you need to get back into, to go to see your family, unless you pay these hundreds of dollars in fees.
Right.
Now, like we were saying, they're already coming back from a volatile environment. They don't need to be coming back in to a volatile environment.
Right.
We should be doing everything we can to make that transition back into our community as smooth as possible and as pleasant as possible after what they've done for us, putting their lives on the line for us. So I was very pleased that that got unanimous support in the House of Representatives, with both Republicans and Democrats joining together to vote that piece of legislation into law. So that is law, and I do invite residents in the community, if you do have any questions about any of the things we've been talking about, or any issue pertaining to veteran status or active duty issues that you may be having, please don't hesitate to reach out to me.
Just goes to show you how successful something can turn into when somebody speaks up.
Exactly.
You know, somebody makes a call and speaks up and says, hey, I've got this issue, and look what amazing things came of it. So, I mean, it's just fantastic.
Exactly. We rely, just as Gerry relies, we rely on the state legislature from hearing from our residents in the community and hearing your opinions, and by you letting us know what the issues are and the challenges are that you're facing. So please don't ever hesitate to contact me. Can I give my contact information?
Absolutely.
To
It'll
the
be on the
residents
bottom of
who
the
are
screen, but
listening?
absolutely.
Okay, great. So is it on the bottom of the screen?
It will be.
Okay, it will be. So look for that information on the bottom of the screen, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Now, before I close, Mrs. Amato, you know, has become a veteran advocate. She calls me often. What can I do? What can I do? I happen to live in Methuen. Don't tell anybody. And we're not next door neighbors, but we are neighbors. And I see her a couple times a month usually, and she's always willing to help. She shows up at events. She's quite the little firecracker. And I think she promised me some homemade cookies. Hey, this is Gerry Maguire, and I am so thrilled to be able to bring these ladies these very, very powerful ladies in the positions that they are in, that are working always to help veterans. You know what's on my arm? We honor our dead by serving the living. This is Gerry Maguire, and thanks for watching.